What up, YouTube? Here with Talk Boxing, episode number 13. On this episode, I'm going to be covering a lot. So let's get this video started. First things to kick off this episode, I'm going to be talking about this past weekend's WBC Featherweight title bout between two then undefeated fighters. It was Magsayo defending his WBC Featherweight title for the first time after successfully capturing that title by defeating a longtime champion and a veteran in the sport, Gary Russell Jr., in an impressive performance. Obviously, he had a lot of attention shined on him after he scored one of last year's best knockouts on the undercard on one of the PBC pay-per-view events. I don't know if it was a Pacquiao-Ugas event, but he scored one of the best knockouts for last year. And ever since then, a lot of hype's been attached to his name. There's a lot of potential what Magsayo still is. There's talks that he might be the next big thing out of the Philippines. And yeah, with him beating Gary Russell Jr. at the beginning of this year, it looked like he was definitely heading towards that direction. But as y'all know the results. If y'all tapping into this video, y'all know the results to what happened between Vargas and Magsayo. That hype train is I wouldn't say it's derailed, but it's kind of slowed down because Vargas was the winner in this fight. He won. He's the new WBC Featherweight champion. He remained as stayed undefeated, while Magsayo took his first L. But it's no big deal because it was such a close competitive bout, and it was via a split decision. That goes to show you how close the fight was. I personally had the fight score 114 to 113 in favor of Vargas, but I wouldn't mind seeing them two run it back. And I'm sure all the fans that got to witness these two fight, they definitely wouldn't mind seeing a rematch between the two champions. And the featherweight division right now has got a good mix. Vargas, he could try and unify the WBA and WBC titles. You have Leo Santa Cruz, who also fights with the PBC promotion, so that matchup could easily be made. But I think Magsayo, in my personal opinion, deserves a rematch. Obviously, he wants to, avenge his first loss and try and gain his title back. And also because of how close the fight was. And a lot of the fans, I'm sure, would definitely campaign for this rematch due to the fact that, it was a exciting, fan-friendly affair. It was an action-filled fight, and fans loved them kind of matchups, right? So they definitely would want to see that fight as well. And I'm on the same boat. But the 126-pound divisions, they got some good top-tier talent fighting at that weight class. You got Josh Warrington, who's a champion. You also have Mauricio Lara in the mix, and you have, like I said, Leo Santa Cruz, Michael Conlan, Lee Woods, Kiko Martinez. The list goes on and on and on. There's a lot of good top caliber opponents to pick from for Vargas moving on as the newly crowned WBC featherweight champion. And to sum the fight, how the fight went, the beginning of the fight, it was all Vargas. He was controlling the distance, picking Magsayo off when he was trying to close the gap and get in a comfortable range to try and land his shots. But Vargas was using his reach and height advantage, establishing that jab early and disrupting Magsayo's rhythm and his attempt at cutting off the ring. And he was selecting his punches well, and he had some good heat and thud behind his punches as well, stopping Magsayo in his tracks. But as the fight went on and we got towards the mid to the late mid rounds, that's when Magsayo started to turn up. I guess he had to reach deep, and he felt, I don't want to say desperate, but he probably felt along with his cornerman that they were behind on the scorecard, so he had to dig deeper to try and make the fight more competitive and catch up on the scorecard. So he started to lay it out there more and started getting more aggressive in his attempt to close the distance between him and Vargas, and started throwing more punches, and he actually started to find success at cutting off the ring versus Vargas, closing that gap and landing some good flush shots. And in the ninth round during the exchange, he landed a good left hook, which dropped Vargas. And yeah, if you were watching it live, it could have been, kind of, arguable, but they show clearly on the replay that Vargas did get hit flush with a shot, and that's what caused the knockdown. And how the fight went, basically you already get the gist of what I'm saying. The beginning rounds were all Vargas, but the late to mid-late rounds were Magsayo for sure, and Magsayo definitely closed out the fight to his advantage, to his favor, more than Vargas did. The later rounds was definitely Magsayo. He turned up more, and once he found success in his offense and success in landing his punches, that gave him more confidence to pursue the action more aggressively and throw at volume more, and lay it out there more than he did in the beginning rounds. And Vargas showed signs of fatigue and and he showed signs of getting affected by Magsayo's punches. Hence why Magsayo started to open up more and started finding more success through that with his offense. Like I said, it was a close competitive bout, and yeah. I definitely would want to see them to go at it again, but it doesn't have to happen immediately. There's a lot of good fighters that both men could fight at the featherweight division. We'll see what happens within that weight class. Like I said, they got a good mix. It's a lively division, and I can't wait to see what's to come within the 126-pound division. Y'all let me know what y'all want to see from both of these guys. Do y'all want to see a immediate rematch between Vargas and Magsayo, or do y'all want to see them fight other top-tier caliber talent at 126 pounds? Like I said, I threw out some top dogs at the featherweight division. Who y'all want to see them get in there with next? Y'all let me know in the comments. Anyways, moving along to the next subject, we got the Cruiserweight title bout that happened in Australia a few weeks back. I was mad that this fight already happened and I didn't even know that this fight was going on. Now, I'm talking about the Mairas Bredis fight versus Jai. Y'all gotta bear with me. Like, my is not gonna be on point with this one, but y'all know who I'm talking about. Jai Opetaia. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correct. Now, I know my pronunciation for Bredis' first name was kind of off as well, but this is raw and uncut and unedited, so please bear with me, y'all. Anyways, the Cruiserweight division, they got a pretty good mix as well. I mean, there's a champion for every sanctioning body right now. Bredis was obviously the face of the Cruiserweight division. If not the most noticeable, but he's definitely been the champion the longest. He competed in the World Boxing Super Series tournament, gave Usyk a run for his money. They fought in the finals in that tournament. Usyk won via majority decision. And Okoli right now, Lawrence Okoli, who's the undefeated WBO Cruiserweight champion, he's got a lot of hype and a lot of support behind him over there in England. If he's the biggest draw in the Cruiserweight division, but Bredis has been holding down that division the longest, but his reign came to an end when he went over to Australia to take on the undefeated challenger Jai Opetaia. And I've never seen this dude fight before, and to be fair, I haven't heard much of him at all. This was my first time actually sitting there and watching him, and his performance versus Bredis, it was very impressive. It was a throughout majority of the fight, it was a dominant performance. Bredis had his moments, but it was pretty much one-sided. I had the fight score 116 to 112. The judges gave the fight to Opetaia via unanimous decision. So all three judges had it in, the favor of the challenger. His timing was immaculate. His jab was very, very good in this fight. And his ability to select his punches and pick his shots and disrupt Bredis' rhythm and offense. Very impressive. He's got a good boxing ability, a good accuracy, good movement as well, and he's definitely a talent to look out for in the cruiserweight division. Australia had just lost their biggest face for the sport of boxing. Obviously, I'm talking about George Gambosis. After he beat Teofimo Lopez last year to become majority champion at lightweight, he became the face of Australian boxing. Obviously, you got Tim Tszyu, but he's on the come up right now. He hasn't won that title yet, and y'all know Gambosis. When he came back to Australia to put on a show for his people in front of 50,000 people, could have had the chance to become undisputed, and that would for sure most likely put him, I say most likely, I said for sure first, but I think when it comes to Australian boxing, if Gambosis were to beat Haney and become undisputed champion, I think that would definitely put him in line to be the greatest boxer to come out of Australia. But that ain't happened because Devin Haney outboxed and put on a dominant performance versus Gambosis a few weeks ago to become undisputed champion at 135. Well, Australia got another champion to get behind, and he did it in front of his home crowd people versus the best cruiserweight and Bredis. And he did that in a convincing fashion. So hats off to this man. IBF and Ring Magazine cruiserweight champion Jai Opetaia. Bredis, he had his 1-2 moments where he was trying to catch up and make the fight more compelling. In the last round, that's where he found some success. He started to get more aggressive, and Opetaia, he started to show a little signs of fatigue. Bredis, actually, while he was getting tagged up, and y'all see the picture while I'm talking right now, Bredis' face was battered up pretty bad because of getting tagged all night long with shots from Opetaia, accurate shots as well. That 1-2, that jab and that backhand for Opetaia was working like a charm for him throughout the fight. And Bredis, though, while he was trying to catch up and make the fight look more competitive and, to not lose his titles as well, obviously, he started to show a little more signs of desperation, started getting more aggressive, started throwing more in volume. And obviously, in the later closing rounds, Opetaia, after putting in all that work, he started to show signs of fatigue that left room for openings, and Bredis started to find some success with his punches, and he tagged up Opetaia pretty bad when it came to the 12th round, but it was kind of too late. As long as Opetaia survived the fight, he pretty much had the fight won in the bag, and the judges had it right. The right man won the fight. Like I said, congrats, and my hat's off to the new champion, Jai Opetaia. He got a lot of potential. I don't know anything about a rematch clause. I didn't check out any clips from any boxing sites far as the post-fight interviews and post-fight press conferences went. I might read up some articles to see if there's a rematch happening between Bredis and Opetaia. But before this fight happened, the way it did, there was talks of a title unification bout between Okolie and Bredis after Okolie in his last fight, and he won. I made a post-fight video to Okolie's last fight. Bredis had came into the ring to have a face-off with Okoli, and the Zone and Eddie Hearns and Bredis and Okoli. They all looked at like they were promoting a mega fight between the two. Well, that fight could be held on delay. Obviously, it will be a compelling fight. It will be a huge fight for the sport of boxing if Bredis were to fight Okoli right now, even if it's only for the WBO title. But another fight that we could look forward to now is a title unification bout between Opetaia and Okoli. The way he outboxed and outclassed and outworked Bredis in the fight, that leaves more of a room for a fight to be made between the two champions, Okoli and Opetaia. And with Opetaia now in the mix, and after seeing what he was able to pull off versus Bredis, this adds more hype to the Cruiserweight division. And then you got two other champions at the Cruiserweight division. You got a undefeated Armenian fighter, Global Miriam. I think that's his name. I can't pronounce his name. I haven't seen or heard too much from him, but he's the WBA champion. Then you got the WBC champion, who was a rumored candidate opponent for Canelo Alvarez if he were to step up to the Cruiserweight division. But that's obviously that idea is out the window. And that's Makabu. And earlier in the beginning of the year, he had a successful defense of his WBC Cruiserweight title. So you got, a lesser known champion in I can't pronounce the Armenian dude's last name, my apologies, Global Miriam, at least I attempted. And then you got Makabu, not as well known as a Bredis and now Opetaia and Okoli, but they are also in the mix when it comes to the Cruiserweight division as well. So there's some good, valuable options for Opetaia as far as future opponents go in the division. Y'all let me know what y'all opinions is on what took place in this fight. Like I said, I didn't even know this fight was going on. Obviously, I'm doing other things like real life-ish while all this is going on, and this fight was happening in Australia. That's far away, and I haven't really been tapping into like boxing forum sites like that in these past few weeks. So if I knew this fight was going on, I would have definitely tapped in, because I'm a fan of the sport and I want to be able to catch every major fight. But like I said, I got to watch the fight later, and it was an entertaining fight, and Jai Opetaia definitely made a fan of me with his performance versus Bredis in this fight. Anyways, moving along now on to the next topic, and that is the rematch between Derek Chisora and Kubrat Pulev. I don't know if I'm pronouncing Pulev's first name correct, so I'm going to be saying his last name only. So yeah, the rematch between Pulev and Chisora, they fought back in 2016, so that's 6 years ago. And then now in 2022, these two heavyweight veterans went to war again in the O2 Arena in London, England. Now, I thought Chisora was going to retire after his fight with Joseph Parker at December of last year, where Parker won via unanimous decision. And I thought, Chisora has given enough to the sport. He's been in hellacious battles all throughout his career, one of the most respected veterans in the heavyweight division, and one of the more endeared figures in the sport of boxing, especially within the heavyweight division. And Pulev as well, he was one of the top contenders, one of the gatekeepers in the sport of boxing when it came to heavyweight boxing. I think the last relevant fight that I could remember Pulev was in was when he fought Anthony Joshua while Joshua was on the come up and undefeated. And then after that, he started doing, thriller fights, fighting MMA guys. But I can't name the most recent major fight that Pulev's had before this fight. Chisora, like I said, he had those back-to-back fights with Parker. He been through 2 fights with David Hay and 2 fights with Dillian White. He fought everybody he could fight, man. And, you know, these 2 guys been, you know, at the top as far as gatekeeping goes when it comes to heavyweight boxing. I did not get to watch their first fight. I still haven't watched it to this date. So their rematch was my first time seeing these 2 go at it. And boy, was it a entertaining fight, entertaining battle that these 2 warriors pulled off. I had the fight scored a draw personally. I had it both 6 rounds each for both fighters. Pulev was making it hard for Chisora to get in range, get on the inside, to work the body and to land his heavy shots and to make it uncomfortable for him. Pulev wasn't really relying on his movement or his footwork much. He was more relying on the jab and him throwing out the jab as much as he can to, you know, it might have not been the most effective jabs, but to, you know, have it in Chisora's way. That way Chisora can't get in range. And Chisora's head movement, you know, for experienced, gained veteran fighters, especially like Pulev, you know, his head movement to try and get in range, you know, it's kind of predictable. And Chisora, I wouldn't say, you know, after seeing his, you know, most recent fights, you would say, you know, his stamina, his endurance definitely is in question. He does seem to get fatigued easily. And, you know, that obviously comes with size and age. And Chisora being over 40 years old, you know, the time ain't in his favor when it comes to stamina. But what to give Chisora his credit, where credit is due, I think Chisora knows what he's doing as far as him distributing his energy to save his stamina. I think he knows what he's doing. He would, you know, step off the gas pedal to save and absorb all his energy. That way he could come back when he sees a opening. He'll do that rope-a-dope trick where, you know, he will, you know, fall back against the ropes, play possum and cover up and let his opponent, you know, go to work. And when he sees a opening to counter his opponent, that's when he will, you know, press his opponent with a flurry of punches. And that's a part of his tactics more than I say, you know, him just getting flat out tired. And Chisora, anytime he would be able to get past Pulev's jab and his attempt at, you know, keeping Chisora at bay, Chisora would, you know, dig to the body, throw some close range hooks and uppercuts while on the inside. And, you know, he would have that burst of attack when he finds, you know, the opportunity to strike, and when he gains, you know, that energy to strike again versus opponent. And, you know, that's how the fight went. Like I said, it was a close competitive fight. The first fight was a split decision, and the second fight, it went the same way. But this time, instead of Pulev walking away with the split decision win, Derek Chisora got the win this time via split decision. Like I said, I had it a draw. It was a very close competitive fight. I don't know if there should be a third fight. I don't know if people want to make it a trilogy. I'm sure it's going to do magnificent numbers out there in the UK. They're completely behind Chisora. Anytime Chisora is the headliner out there in England, it's a sellout crowd. And this fight was a entertaining battle. I'm sure the first fight was a thrilling, entertaining bout as well, hence why the rematch happened. And, you know, this would be a relevant fight in the sport of boxing. You know, it would be a good fight to have out there sometime later, but I don't know if these two fighters at the point where they're at now in their lives. I don't know if they could pull off another war like this. Maybe I say next year. We already halfway past 2022. I don't know if they're gonna have another fight, another trilogy bout. Like I said, it's gonna do numbers, but do they have it in them? I'm sure it's going to be, if they make the fight happen at the end of the year or maybe, early next year, they could pull off another entertaining bout like this. But how much more battles do both of these battle-tested warriors have in them? Like I said, a lot of fans, including myself, was suggesting that Derek Chisora retire after his fight versus Joseph Parker last year. And Pulev, he's been having exhibition bouts versus MMA fighters, headlining Triller cards and all that. And, obviously they getting a bag for it, but I mean, should they continue on? And definitely, like, this got to come into consideration. Like, do they want to go through another war like they did last Saturday? Do they have it in them? Like, after this fight, another fight like this? I don't know. Y'all let me know what y'all want to see out of these two. I don't think a title shot for either Chisora or Pulev is in question. I think, they've been, like I said, they're gatekeepers at the heavyweight division. But as far as a title shot for either one of these guys, I think that's out the window. So what do y'all want to see out of these two heavyweight veterans? Do y'all want to see a third fight between Derek Chisora and Kubrat Pulev? Do y'all want to see it? Anyways, moving along now. And speaking of heavyweight boxing, we gonna move along to Joyce versus Christian Hammer. That happened, I think, also last weekend. Joyce was able to pick up his 14th win. I don't want to call him a prospect because the dude's in his mid-30s, but he's on the come up as far as the ranks go in heavyweight boxing. He scored yet another knockout win over journeyman Christian Hammer, and I mean that with all due respect. I've never seen or heard of Christian Hammer, not familiar with his work at all. And definitely not going to go down under Joyce's resume as one of the more notable opponents that he was able to score a win over. It was one-sided. Joyce was pushing Christian Hammer back with his power punches. And yeah, he was cutting off the ring versus Christian Hammer, forcing him back to the ropes, landing his punches at will. Going to the body, landing impactful shots to the head. And yeah, 4th round TKO, like I said, that's a result of this fight. He knocked him down, I think, like 3 times. In the end of the 3rd round, he forced Hammer to the corner, and he landed, I think, overhand right that landed behind the ear, but Hammer was arguing with the ref as if it was a shot to the back of the head. But it was questionable, but he ducked his head. He's the shorter fighter, and he also ducked. That's why it counted as a knockdown, and it looked like a pretty clean punch anyway. So it was basically complaining to complain on Hammer's behalf. And then when he came out of the corner for the 4th round, it was all Joyce after that. He started digging to the body, started landing more punches at his will. And looked like Hammer, when he came out of his corner for the 4th round, he was out of the fight already. He knew how the momentum of the fight was going, and he looked out of it. And Joyce, once he landed his few shots to the body and his combo of punches, Hammer would drop to his knee, answer the referee's count. Didn't look like he wanted to answer and continue. But he got up anyways to get knocked down again. And he took a knee, and then the referee seen enough. He's getting hit pretty much flush with every shot that Joyce throws at him, and he looks like he doesn't have the encouragement to continue fighting, and the ref could read that along with the fans, hence why he called the halt to the bout. But what I saw from this fight, Joyce said following this fight that he want to challenge the winner of Usyk and Joshua in their rematch. And Joyce, like I said, he's on the come up as far as the rankings go in the sport of boxing. But dude's like already 36 years old. I don't know how much years he's got left in him. He obviously doesn't have enough experience yet. His notable fighters that he beat is Jennings and Dubois. I think he got another recognizable name under his resume. Like I said, he's undefeated, knockout artist. But I think he gets a little too overzealous when he's going in for the kill versus his opponents. He was getting hit with some flush shots pretty clean. He's a hittable target. Christian Hammer was finding success in landing punches versus Joyce, especially when Joyce is coming in, got his hands down, and and it looks like his mind is all offense when he's trying to close that gap and pressure his opponents and land his shots, that he tends to forget about the defense part of the game. And when he tries to step up in level of competition and challenge for a world title, he can't afford those technical mistakes. I definitely don't think he's ready for a title shot. I think from seeing what I've been seeing from Joyce, I think guys like Derek Chisora, Pulev, and Dillian White, those guys would give him trouble. Definitely would, put questions in the air as far as who will win that fight between. If y'all know what y'all talking about when it comes to the sport of boxing, like that fight that could be made possibly in the future for Joyce as he's climbing through the ranks, those are questionable fights for him to take on. Guys like Derek Chisora and etc. etc. I'm just using those guys' names as an example, but I'm just calling like how I see it. Joyce, I don't think he's ready for a title shot, and I ain't trying to be no hater. I'm just seeing what I'm seeing and saying what I'm seeing. And I think he needs a few more fights under his belt. I think he needs to work on his game. I admire and respect the confidence that he has to, want to challenge for the title. He's got ambition. I respect that, but he's gotta work towards it. It's a process to this, and he's gotta go through the ranks rightfully and not rush it. Anyways, moving along now. Jake Paul, the YouTube sensation. Well, now I guess he's one of boxing sensations, because whether y'all like him or not, he brings in a lot of attention to the sport of boxing, and the dude is dedicated to the sport of boxing. So I respect that. Salute to him. Shout out to him. And he brings attention to one of the best female fighters in the sport as well, in Amanda Serrano, who's one of the lineal women's champion in the sport of boxing. She'll be fighting on this card as well. As y'all know, Jake Paul was originally scheduled to fight Tyson Fury's younger brother, Tommy Fury, at Madison Square Garden this summer, but due to promotional issues, travel visa issues, and all that, y'all could go read all that yourselves. I don't want to talk about why Tommy Fury cannot enter the country. I don't know about his criminal record or anything like that, but I heard it's got something to do with his promoter, hence why this fight can't be made. So instead of fighting Tommy Fury, Jake Paul will now fight Hasim Rahman Jr., who has a record of 12-1. I've never seen Hasim Rahman Jr. fight. That name is synonymous when it comes to the sport of boxing. That name, Hasim Rahman, as y'all know, back in the late 90s and early 2000s, Hasim Rahman was a notable name when it came to heavyweight boxing. His most memorable win, obviously, that knockout win that he scored over Lennox Lewis. This is his son, and he's got a record of 12-1. But more importantly, this will be Jake Paul's first actual pro boxer. that he will be fighting. So this is important. This is really testing Jake Paul's skills as a boxer. He considers himself a pro boxer when he's fought the likes of a fellow YouTuber, and then he advanced to fighting a retired basketball player, and then he fought a MMA fighter, wrestler though, Ben Askren, who's been critiqued for his stand-up game throughout his MMA career. Then he went on to fight someone who has a wrestling background as well, but is a better striker than Ben Askren, and Tyron Woodley. Actually fought him twice. The first fight was a close decision. I had that fight in favor of Jake Paul. I thought Jake Paul won that fight. Close fight, but Jake Paul, I gave him one more round for him to win via decision, and then he cleared all the questions in the air by knocking out Tyron Woodley in the rematch. A lot of people thought it was fake and it was staged, but nah, the way Tyron Woodley felt, I'm claiming that knockout was real. It looked like a legit knockout. But regardless of the fact, I thought Jake Paul won the first fight as well. And in the second fight, he cleared all the doubts. And now, instead of fighting Tommy Fury, who comes from a illustrious boxing family, just because he's not as successful as his brother Tyson Fury, obviously, who retired undefeated, lineal heavyweight champion, very talented, very skilled boxer. Tommy Fury isn't a Tyson Fury. He was on a reality TV show over there in England. But I think he's had prior pro boxing fights, and they've been talking shit back and forth on social media, Jake Paul and Tommy Fury, and they've been rumored to fight each other for some time now, but it's not happening. But him taking on Hasim Rahman Jr., now this is his biggest test yet, and I'm looking forward to it, to see how he performs in there versus Hasim Rahman Jr. Now I don't want to say, I don't want to see no bullshit. Like, I don't want to see no, I don't even want to associate bullshit with the sport of boxing, and y'all got a part of my language if y'all whatever, right? Like the BS that came with, the results of Tyron Woodley and Jake Paul in their second fight. Like, I don't want none of that associated with this fight. If Jake Paul wins this fight versus Hasim Rahman Jr., I don't want no BS associated with that. And obviously, to be fair to Jake Paul, I know a lot of haters might be like, oh, taking it easy on him. Nah, I don't want to, have people come with, negative aspects, and, like I said, it's entertaining, and it brings attention to the sport of boxing, especially within the younger crowd. And Hasim Rahman Jr. could make something of himself. Jake Paul's got a lot of haters and doubters, and I'm sure it's a huge amount of those when it comes to boxing fans who, don't even want to see this guy associated with the sport of boxing, who thinks that Jake Paul himself being involved in the sport of boxing is some BS. But we also get to see Amanda Serrano featured on the card. I don't know how the tickets are doing as far as the ticket sales go for this event, but Amanda Serrano, when she fought Katie Taylor in this same venue, they had a good turnout. Jake Paul's got clout. Hasim Rahman, that name alone is a big name when it comes to the sport of boxing, and New York is a boxing town, so I'm expecting a good turnout for this event. And like I said, if y'all don't want to see Jake Paul, like I said, he dedicates himself to the sport of boxing, and this is his biggest test. That's why I'm looking forward to it. And if you don't want to see Jake Paul, at least you get to see, Amanda Serrano get featured on the card. And I think he's done a good job at promoting Amanda Serrano and making her more of a marketable name to the public. Y'all let me know what y'all opinion is. I don't know if I'm gonna make a prediction video. Like I said, when these kind of fights happen, more times people tend to look at it as an exhibition bout. So I don't know if I'm going to make a prediction video previewing this fight. But like I said, there's other legit boxers and fighters that's gonna be on this card. And yeah, I like I said, I think this is a good look for the sport of boxing. Been saying it, and yeah, y'all let me know what y'all opinion is in the comments, or if y'all got a video talking about it and y'all want me to check it out, I'll check it out too. Anyways, moving along to close out this video, the next topic I'm gonna be talking about is my own personal pound for pound rankings. Now, last time that I gave y'all my own personal pound for pound rankings in whatever Talk Boxing episode, when it comes to these lists, people are gonna disagree. Obviously, when it comes to this P4P shit, like, it's a personal thing. Like, everybody's got their own list. I try and be as less biased as possible. I try and narrow it down to their resume and what they've done recently in the sport, and their ability as a fighter. Y'all see the list right now. I'll name y'all from number 10 all the way to number 1. Alright, at number 10 I have Dmitry Bivol at number 10. It was either gonna be him or Arthur Beterbiev. Beterbiev had a crazy impressive performance where he defeated Joe Smith Jr. in only 2 rounds, knocked him out, and then unified the WBO and now the IBF light heavyweight titles. I think he also has the WBC light heavyweight titles. Dmitry Bivol only has the WBA, but he got that recognizable win versus a former pound for pound king in Canelo Alvarez, and he also outboxed and outclassed Joe Smith Jr. They have 2 totally different styles, Bivol and Beterbiev. They're the 2 light heavyweight champions currently, and Beterbiev did that before. I said Beterbiev. Bivol defeated Smith before Beterbiev did, and it's a toss up. It's a coin toss between Beterbiev and Bivol when it comes to who's the top light heavyweight in the sport. But as of right now, at number 10, I have Dmitry Bivol, and at number 9, I have Shakur Stevenson, and at number 8, Josh Taylor, and at number 7, Jermell Charlo, the undisputed light middleweight champion. Then at number 6, I have the undisputed lightweight champion, Devin Haney. And at number 5, I have the majority bantamweight champion and the winner of the bantamweight World Boxing Super Series tournament, Naoya Inoue. And at number 4, I have the undisputed super middleweight champion, Saul Canelo Alvarez. And at number 3, I have Terrence Bud Crawford, former undisputed champion, 3-divisional champion, current WBO undefeated welterweight champion. And at number 2, I have the majority welterweight champion, the undefeated Errol Spence. And coming in at number 1, I have Alexander Usyk, the winner of the Cruiserweight World Boxing Super Series tournament and the majority heavyweight champion. Now, y'all let me know y'all personal pound for pound rankings in the comments, or y'all can make a video response, whatever. If y'all want to list y'all pound for pound rankings in the video y'all own and y'all want me to check it out, I'll put it. Anyways, that does it for this episode of Talk Boxing. Subscribe, share, like, comment, all that good stuff. Y'all already know. Be safe, be healthy, and I'm out of here, y'all. Peace.